Hello YouTube. Hey, thanks for tuning in to yet another Hanging with Heavy video. We're going to continue on with our hammer build project. Tonight we're going to build part number 59, which is the 1/2 inch round bar that goes on to the turnbuckle weldment. So hang with heavy. We're going to go over this. I'm going to show you how I laid it out and how I put it together. Now then, this is the part that we're going to be building, and it's just this half inch bar that runs down here, and you'll notice it's got a little crook in it, a 4-inch crook, and that is this is the clutch rod, part number 59. All right, and it's a 1/2 inch round bar, and it's 37 inches long. Now I've laid that out on the table here for you. This is the interesting part though. It's got this little crook into it, and you'll notice that the crook is 4 inches from the outside to 4 inches to outside. So I'm hoping to put mine together tonight and use this little diagram I've put up and see what happens. Now this is the part that we're going to be working with tonight, part number 59, and you'll see I've got it labeled for you, 1/2 inch round bar, 37 inches long. Now I've gone ahead and made a mark at 37. Okay, that's my beginning. This is my end, and you'll notice that this goes into part number 214, the turnbuckle weldment. Now here's a nice part. See, it's got this little bend in it. So I went ahead and put that together and see if I can't make mine come out like that. We'll see what happens. Now for this particular part of the operation, I'm going to be using my rosebud torch, this one here with the multiple holes at the end, and I'm going to be applying some heat here. Now I've gone ahead of time and tack welded the part number 59 to my table. Just a small tack, something I'll be able to take off a little later on. I will not be applying heat directly down to the top, but more or less from the sides and hoping it'll carry to the top. That way I'm not heating my table directly. I'm then going to bend it down, and you'll see I've got this little radius in here, so I'm going to have to heat up in here and bend this down to where I can get it to match up what I have to have it do. Hang with heavy. We're going to go ahead and light this torch. Okay, you see how I heated the outside of that and the inside and the top, and I bent it around so that the inside of this follows this profile pretty much. Now I'm going to go ahead and clamp it off here. Maybe I'll use a vice grip or a tack weld, and I'm going to bring this around the same way to make it in the same graceful kind of curve. Got part number 59 built, which was the rod itself. We now have to go along and add on the other components that are going to make this turnbuckle work for us. Now what we've done is we've taken a turnbuckle, and if you look over there on the left hand side over here, if you look over here, you'll notice that they have a turnbuckle that they were able to take the two ends off of. Now, I couldn't find turnbuckles like that, so I have to come over here and build this part here, which is made out of a piece of 1/4 by 1 by 3 inches long, and there is a hole, there is a 3/8 hole that goes in there, and that's going to act as my contact points for my clevis. Now then, let's take a look at something here. This is the clevis I'm talking about. Now what I have to do is cut this end off here and replace it with the part I just talked about here that we're going to build now. So let's go ahead on. I'm going to cut and drill, and I'll show you how to put these together. Now this is the material I'm using, 1 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick by 3 inches long. I had to lay out my pieces, but don't lay them all out at one time. If you come along here and lay out this one and then this one and this one, by the time you get to the end, you're going to be short. So you have to lay out each one, cut it, and then lay out the next one. Now then, you want to do your work accurately. So use your layout dies, lay out your spots, and center punch. Now keep in mind, man, we're just humans. We're not machines. So you might be off a little bit, one way or another, but if you try to stay as close and as accurate as you can from the start, you'll be much better off on this part of your design. These are the parts I've just made, 1 inch by 1/4 by 3 inches in length. And I have taken and drilled a 3/8 inch hole into them as per my instructions. Now then, I'm going to assemble them. I'm going to weld that together. I'm going to weld that onto here. Now, what I did was I made myself a little spacer here, so I make sure my holes lined up nicely. On this end, I've got it clamped with my vice grips into the 1/2 inch rod that we used yesterday. Now, since this plate here is 1 inch thick and the rod is 1/2 inch, that leaves me a 1/4 inch on either side, which I used by using some spacers. I put a couple spacers in there like that to hold it up a 1/4 inch so that I am more or less centered into that. Now I'm going to be using a low hydrogen 7018 electrode to weld this with. The reason being, this is a mechanical part going up and down, up and down. It's going to be subject to quite a bit of shock, if you will. So 7018, being a low hydrogen electrode, will give me a much stronger weld than the 6010 that I use to tack things together with. Alright, you can see that I've taken my 7018 electrode and I've welded this part all the way around. And I'm going to have to do that to the other end, but I'm going to have to cut the turnbuckle. So let's go ahead and see what happens at that point. Alright, you can see I've got my turnbuckle here. These are about 30 bucks each from the farm store. I'm going to cut that eye off and weld on an end onto that, just like I welded onto the other end of the adjusting arm. So now that'll be able to screw up and down. You'll see I've got 2 adjustments here. That'll be able to screw up and down and provide the tension that I need into the treadle. Okay, now you can see I've removed the eye from the threaded shaft. I've got my 2 pieces here that I'm going to line up and I'm going to weld onto there. Now some people are asking me how much of this threaded shaft here will go up into here so I weld along it. Well, that's a 1/2 inch shaft and I'm going to be welding both sides. So I'm going to make sure that I have at least 1/2 inch of this shaft up into here so I can place a fillet weld there. Also, notice that these parts are galvanized. Now when you weld galvanized, you have to use the 6010 electrode to help burn through the galvanized or grind it away. I'm definitely going to be grinding away this galvanized. Galvanized, when it burns, gives off zinc oxide. Zinc oxide will give you zinc oxide poisoning. Now you're going to hear the old timers tell you, oh, drink milk, do this, do that. I'm going to tell you right now, the only way to avoid zinc oxide poisoning is to stay out of the welding plume. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the completed part number 214, turnbuckle assembly. Now, what I did there is I cut the eye off and I butt welded the 1/2 inch round bar to the threaded part of that rod. So there is my adjustment there. And then down here, we made those clevises, remember that? We fabricated up the clevises, and I've done the same thing on that end down there. You'll notice I put a bolt through it to make sure everything lined up. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we build part number 214, turnbuckle assembly. And you know what? Pretty soon I'm going to be working on the next part of this, which is going to be the tire assembly, where I take the part I had laser cut and mount the lead to it. So there you have it, YouTube. We made part number 214 for our treadle hammer assembly. Now, you know what I want you to do. I want you to reach over there, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Send this to all your buddies, anybody that's building a power hammer. And you know what? I'm going to catch you outside.